Hi, thank you so much for coming. My name's Julie Macon, and we're going to be discussing today the secrets of your addiction. Now, that doesn't mean that it actually has to be your addiction. Perhaps you're actually living with somebody who has an addiction and you've got questions that you want answered, or perhaps you're the addicted party and you have the questions. Maybe you just can't give up that substance or behavior no matter how hard you try. And it's there for a reason. And I'm going to explain that to you right now. A little bit about me before we go ahead. I'm actually a psychotherapist and I specialize in hypnotherapy. Now, I use so many different tools and tricks that I've got in my little toolbox, some of them being NLP, I use resource therapy, I use theta healing, and also polyvagal theory as well. And I have actually niched into an area which is rejection. And in that area, I also specialize in body intelligence, which is BQ. I'm beginning a BQ movement. And another area which I feel really requires some attention is addiction. Okay, so attachment. What does that even mean and why is it important to you? Well, firstly, the reason why it's important to you is because when we're young, we actually require attachment in order to be able to self-regulate our bodies, and I'm going to be touching on that a little bit more in the further slides. But what I need to let you know firstly about attachment is that it has to do with caregivers providing security, safety, emotional support. So in the bottom pictures, you're going to see a baby, a child that is being nurtured and that is safe. And that in an adult becomes somebody who feels trust, is confident, is happy. This person is probably not on it probably doesn't have addictions because they're actually able to self-regulate their body, meaning they can bring their body back to a sense of calmness. Okay. And then we have the insecure attachment. You've got that child that's there. Now, maybe they've got a parent that's, not capable of looking after all of their needs. So if that baby is not being looked after in a way that requires all their needs being met, well then in an adult, they might find themselves with anxiety issues, trust issues. They might get angry. They might have an addiction issue. They might have issues around rejection. They might have issues around, you know, feeling like they are less than. They might feel as though they're not worthy, that they're not special, and that they are not enough. And then they will then, see the world in that way and respond to the world from that place of, I'm not good enough. All right, so what does it mean to be safe? Well, this is what it means. It means to have compassion, to be curious, to explore, to support, to be happy, to have joy, to feel adventure, all of those good, happy feelings. And I tell you what, when you are feeling safe, you're sending out all these good chemicals throughout the body. Those neural networks are firing off, and what they're actually doing throughout the body is they are sending out healing and repair. So that's what the chemicals are that are going through your body at that moment. But if you're feeling unsafe, well, then your body, the army within your body, is then sending out, their army to try and protect you. So it's gone to survival mode now, or perhaps it's just trying to keep you safe. So your body is doing everything that it can to try and help you be safe. Now, if that means fawning, meaning, perhaps you don't feel safe and you're trying to do everything you can in order to not make that other person upset, or perhaps you're feeling trapped, like there's no way out. You might feel shame, being that you're embarrassed of yourself, basically. That feeling of not being enough, not being special, feeling so alone, not feeling worthy. So, quick question for you. When you were upset as a child, when you felt not understood, when you felt emotionally troubled, whom did you talk to about it? Who could you confide in without restraint? Okay. Now, just to start off, I want to start letting you know about what implicit memory actually is. So, implicit memory actually can begin within the womb. So, now consciously, we start remembering things, by the age of maybe, I don't know, once we're out of the womb. Hopefully, I'm able to mention it here on one of the other slides. But implicit memory is actually body memory. Okay, so that means that the body remembers what we are unable to consciously remember. So, body memory, it remembers, that, that kindness that perhaps your caregiver showed you constantly. It knows how to feel trust for that caregiver. It knows when it just knows. It knows how to respond and react to things. So something has happened to you. So let's just say um, all right, there was an accident and you went and saved yourself by putting out your arms straight out in front of you to support yourself. Okay, this is just a pure example. Now, your arms have gone straight out and your body's gone, hell yeah, that worked that time. I'm going to start doing that in the future because it actually protected me. So, your body is going to continue to do that movement when it feels the need to do that movement. So, in any kind of protection, your body is going to, use that implicit memory to try and save you down the track. All right. So, trauma, what does it actually even mean? So, in Greek origin, it does mean wound. But I want you to know that any time you felt rejected, anytime you were criticized, anytime you were abandoned, that is like a cut on your insides. It's a wound. And I can tell you that when you touch that wound, it hurts because that scar never mended properly. Okay? So it's, that scar, that it's going to sit there and you are going to respond from that from that moment forward. And it has a compounding effect. So every single time, as I said, you were criticized, every single time you were abandoned, every single time you felt rejected, it's got a compounding effect. And the thing about trauma is it's not the event, it's how it made you feel. That's what the important bit is. Okay? So trauma is not the event, it's how it made you feel. And was that, when it made you feel that way, was it able to enter the body, but then able to, pass out the other end? A lot of the times we're just capturing it within our body. Addiction, what is it? Well, it provides us with temporary relief, pleasure, or is it something that you crave? Now, it also has negative consequences. And even though there are negative consequences, there is an inability to stop. That is the definition of an addiction. So if you have any kind of substance or behavior that you use that provides you with relief, pleasure, or something that you crave, and that it may have negative consequences, and even though those negative consequences occur, you still continue to do it, you've got an addiction. Now, I've got this tree analogy that I like to use. Fact is that let's just say we've got two little seedlings, and one particular seedling you put in the optimum soil. You might put that wonderful plastic around it, you might protect it, you lovingly come and you water it and you fertilize it and you've tended the soil before you even planted that seedling, and you make sure that it is nurtured and grows up big and strong. Okay, but then there was this other little seedling, and it got planted in inadequate soil. It might have been clay, or it may have been too wet in that area. And you know what? It was never lovingly surrounded with that wonderful plastic. No, it wasn't. So it had all of the elements, rain, sun, hail, animals, trying to attack it all the time. And it was never protected. Okay, you can imagine the difference between that particular little plant compared to the other one that we had planted. Now, that particular plant, it has no choice but to grow and try to make the most of everything. But it's just not as strong as what that other plant is. It's tried. It's tried everything it can, but you know what? It's just not as strong as that other one. And when it has little seedlings, those little seedlings are dropped in that same soil that wasn't right for them, that didn't provide that nurturance. Those little ones, those little seedlings, they're not going to get the same nurturance. They've just been plopped in that soil that's just not as good. Okay, so you can see how one is going to grow up great, big and strong, and then you've got this other little seedling that has struggled all its life. So what does it do for you? What does an addiction actually do for you? So it has to do with those unresolved wounds and all of those times you internalized what happened to you. Okay? It's that implicit memory. So, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, taste, feel. Okay, so this is the body senses. So, let's just say, um, uh, let's just say that you've got, okay, so I can tell you that your body is going to maybe feel uncomfortable or anxious. Okay, you're going to feel it in the body first through what you see, hear, feel, smell, taste. Okay, you feel it in the body first, and your body sends out that signal saying, doesn't feel safe. And before you even consciously are aware that you don't feel safe, you are going to crave that substance or behavior because that is what has made you feel safe. Okay? So that addiction is actually there for you. Now, oh, there you go. So the body's automatic subconscious response is then to crave the coping substance or behavior. That's exactly right. So, what does it do for me? All right. So, as a result of the past unresolved wounds, you're going to start feeling that in your day to day as if it's happening to you in the here and now. Let's just say that you've had an argument with your partner, and maybe you've got fear coming in to your body as a result. But really, what you're responding to is that fear that you had as that little 3-year-old. Okay, so if you had actually had the chance to resolve or extinguish or dissolve that little 3-year-old's fear, that adult that's having its argument with the partner would no longer be responding from that fear. So you've got past unresolved wounds that are coming up for you in the here and now, in your adult life. Okay? Sorry, so I'm reading this as well. So the body's automatic subconscious response is then to crave the coping substance or behavior. Yeah, coping substance or behavior diverts the attention or numbs, masks the physical sensations, meaning that, we don't like to sit in discomfort, do we? I mean, seriously, who we are constantly avoiding discomfort. I mean, I don't like to hop into a cold bed at night, so I put on my electric blanket because I don't like the discomfort. I mean, how many people take that cold shower in the morning? I'd say that there's a small percentage because it's uncomfortable. But the fact is that when we step into our discomfort by choice, it makes things a whole lot simpler. Okay? Yeah, see, so fun fact, we have got signals that are going through our body at approximately 300 k's per hour. So we get in the sensations into the body, okay? And then they rush up and the brain discovers them. And so that signal, approximately 300 k's an hour, and then it gets sent back down 300 k's an hour with the instruction as to how to respond. Pretty fantastic. Okay, so why is it so hard to quit? Well, the substance, the behavior, it might be referred to as it might be your escape, it might be your time out, it might be your soother. So there was a 27-year-old sex trade worker in the book The Myth of Normal. Now, they said the first time I did heroin, it felt like a warm, soft hug, just like a mother hugging her baby. Now, isn't it cruel to take away, that feeling? When somebody hasn't experienced it before, I think it's quite dispassionate of somebody to want to take that away from someone else just because they don't like them doing that particular drug. All right, so my client experiences drinking supplemented with eating. So smoker reached for the top pocket. Right. So I've got this other client, and they, they used to. I had this client. She was a drinker, so she was, having one bottle of wine a day, and she was starting to get a bit messy by the end of it. And her husband's gone, hey, you know what? I think it's time that you did something about that. She's gone, okay. Anyway, so she's given me a call, and she said, I'm needing to cut down. She said, I don't want to give it up altogether. Well, that's fine, absolutely. I said to her, but before the appointment, I invite you just to hold off from having, a drink, and just notice what the emotions are when you hold off. She's gone, yeah, no worries, can do. So she's gone away. She's come to the appointment. And when she came to the appointment, she said, oh my God, I'm just so happy because you know what? Those feelings that you told me to search for when I didn't have a drink, well, they never came up. Instead, what I did, instead of having the glass of wine, I ended up opening up a bag of salt and vinegar chips instead. So you can see how she was going to actually supplement her, her bottle of wine was going to end up becoming an emotional eater. Okay. And just on talking about before what I mentioned earlier about your body knows what's going on before you consciously are aware. And I've got a story about a smoker, and he was parked in this car park, ready for a meeting with this particular guy. And he'd come to me, a couple of weeks earlier for smoking cessation. Now, he works with a smoker day in, day out. They partner together in this small environment, and it has never ever been a bother. So you can be around other smokers, and it is not an issue. But what actually happened was, whilst he was parked up in this car park, he noticed that the guy that he was having a meeting with had pulled up behind him, and he saw him in the rearview mirror. And as soon as he saw him in the rearview mirror, he reached for his reach for his top right pocket. And that was where he used to keep his cigarettes. So it had nothing to do with other people smoking around him. It actually had to do with his stress or his anxiety. That is what the problem is. So he doesn't have a smoking problem. He's got a stress, anxiety problem. And just remember, people are going to do anything they need to avoid revisiting past wounds. It's really hard for some people to revisit what happened in the past. And the thing is, we can do things within minutes. We can change things, a situation, one situation, within a couple of minutes. It is that simple. Okay? Okay, so we're still on why is it so hard to quit? So if we were to take the coping mechanism, okay, so whether it be your substance or your behavior, and the wound, okay, so our trauma, our wound, our scar, may have not healed properly from the past. And the implicit memory, excuse me, you might hear my dog barking, and the implicit memory, body memory, and it's going to respond to the unsafe data from the environment. So, as I said, the 5 physical sensations. Oh, cut it out. You're okay. All right, so the 5 physical sensations, they are what we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we taste, and what we smell. Okay, so we've got our physical sensations that are coming into the body. Now, the uncomfortable emotion enters after we've experienced that sensation that's coming in. And once we experience that uncomfortable sensation, the cravings and the withdrawal come in. Okay? So, is now the right time to remove the coping mechanism? Well, first of all, I don't just take that coping mechanism off you. It's like having a walking stick without repairing the leg first. It's important to repair the leg before you even, before the person actually feels safe enough to let go of the walking stick. Okay? So you've also got to realize that if it's, generally it's stress, stress and emotions that are coming up, anxiety that is coming up, hence the reason for our need for the addiction. Now, if you've got a moment that's, coming up, or perhaps you're in a situation where you've just got overflowing stress, and emotions, overwhelm, well, then really you should be dealing with your stress, your overwhelm, and the emotions, okay? Rather than dealing with getting rid of something that has been there for you, okay? But you must have the intention to quit. I invite you to actually scale yourself between 0 and 10. And if you're not at like a 9 or a 10, don't bother. You have to really be wanting to quit. You have to commit. Okay? So, how will I manage cravings and withdrawal? So, when you heal your past wounds, those sensations, those uncomfortable body sensations don't come up, and therefore you won't have the cravings or withdrawal. Okay? Because your trigger is gone. You just won't feel the need for it anymore. And it's about healing the past in order to no longer feel the need for that substance or behavior. But if you do happen to notice cravings or withdrawal, I do invite you to ask yourself, what's going on in your environment? What's going on in your environment that, where you don't feel safe? Sometimes boredom can be a big trigger. If you, let's just say you're sitting out there on the couch watching, a sitcom, and maybe you're bored, you're just sitting there. It can be very uncomfortable to sit in boredom. And it might be during those times when you feel the need for the substance or the behavior. So, in my experience dealing with cravings and withdrawal, have very similar symptoms to that of anxiety or the fight flight response. Okay, a feeling of being unsafe. And look, I get clients that come in, and you know what they say? They say, you know what, I just want to feel normal. And I don't think that there is a normal. I think that there is a feeling of safe and there's a feeling of unsafe. And the fact is, we want to be ourselves. We just want to be feeling safe. We want to feel like we're connected, like we're accepted just for who we are. Now, there is something that I'd like to add, and that is if you do happen to experience severe symptoms of paranoia, seizures, confusion, disorientation, tremors, it really needs to be a process that perhaps you need to call your doctor in on. Okay? So it's important for your support people to work as a team. Okay? Now, you might ask, what about relapse? Now, I don't know if any of you have heard Jimmy Barnes' story. I think he is freaking awesome. So he has two parts to it. He has his childhood, and he had quite a traumatic childhood. Then the second part of the series has to do with him in adulthood and all of his struggles with alcohol, anger, drugs. And what he did say was that he did go to rehab and he managed to get off the drugs, but put him back in his environment again and he starts them up again. You have to excuse me, I've just got to get my dog. Yeah, so he does actually start them up again. Okay. But what he did find was he found an awesome therapist who helped him to go back and talk about his childhood. And when he did that, he was actually able to go into recovery and not relapse. But also, I invite you to think of relapse kind of like you're going, you're working towards the Olympics. Okay, now you're not going to always hit the perfect mark, but as long as you're giving it a go, that's what is important. So, relapse occurs if there are physical sensations that haven't been resolved, or to put it differently, our perception of the memory changed. So, this is when we're talking about that, we're talking about our childhood perception. Okay? Because when we remember back to a trauma, it's from that child's perspective, not the adult perspective. And there's no failure, only learnings. Or identity. Who will I be? Maybe this is a reason for relapse. So, who will I be if my crap is gone? So, who am I going to be? I've relied on that all the time, like, poor me. Maybe you're just not ready to quit. Remember how I said about that scaling, 0 to 10? You need to be at least a 9 or a 10. Don't bother making the phone call otherwise. Perhaps you never intended to quit at all. Now, the subconscious is approximately 90% of our functions. Remember, it's moving our heart, our breathing, way we move our whole bodies. That's all subconscious. You're not actually stopping to logically think about how to move it. It does it on its own. So this is an automatic response, okay? When we fall, we put our arm out. It is automatic, just like your body feeling the need for that behavior or substance. It's an automatic response. But once again, as I just said earlier, if you take away, the discomfort, then you're no longer going to feel the need for that. You're no longer going to feel the need for the substance or behavior. Now, should you relapse, okay, as I said, you're not going to fail. Just take the learnings. Start to notice what is going on in your environment. As soon as you have that craving, whoa, what's going on? Am I feeling stressed? Is it overwhelming? Did a fight just occur? So what's happening in your environment? What thoughts are going on through your head? What are the emotions? How's your posture? What are the five senses that you've got going on? What is the sensations that are going on through your body? All right. So this is one of my clients, Rufus, the emotional eater. So booked in for gastric band surgery, we regressed them to 7 years old, and he felt sadness, a feeling of being trapped and alone. Now, we resolved the physical sensation, provided resources, and future paced, meaning we, trialed what's going on in the future. And then the next session, he advised he noticed a change in food choice and standing up for himself. Now I've got another client, Morgan. Now, he was a smoker since age 10. Now he's 49 years old. And we regressed him back to being 8 years old. And he was at grandma's eating cookies because it made him feel good. You've got to remember that when we're kids, we don't have much control over what it is that we can do. And food is just one of the ways that we can control what we do. Okay, so due to this cue, so as soon as he said that food, grandma's cookies, made him feel good, well, why wasn't he feeling good before? So we actually did some further regression back to him being 4 years old. And, even though he had somebody else that was there, he did feel alone. And we provided him with nurturance and an anchor. Okay. Now, after one session, he'd cut down and he now feels better about himself. Look, these are just some strategies that you can use. All right, so you can learn to breathe properly. Okay. Now, this helps to calm the body down. So in for 4, out for 8. Okay. So double the breath out. Now, another thing that you can do to supercharge it, hold your heart whilst you're doing it. And then there's another thing that you can do, which is even better than breathing that way. You can actually do 2 breaths in. So hold it for as long as you can, and then slow release out. And what we're doing is when we're taking those 2 deep breaths in, we're reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in our body. And it's the carbon dioxide that's floating around in our body that can help make us feel agitated. So if we get rid of that carbon dioxide from the body, we're going to feel less agitated. So those 2 deep breaths in and then letting it all go. All right. Try changing your posture. If you're looking down, you actually start to feel more depressed. But if you pick your head up, if you put your shoulders back, if you smile at someone else, how about if you were to try being angry whilst you smile? Yeah. Eye contact, touch, hugging, singing, humming, chanting, dance. What about cold water under your hands? Or a butterfly hug. So this is a butterfly hug. It's a bit of bilateral stimulation. Yeah. So these are things to help bring you back to safety. Okay. So change your posture, smile, eye contact, touch, hug, sing, hum, chant. These things all help to bring you back to safety. All right. And use anchors. Okay. So using anchors is just like, if you've got something that you use to just help remind you of, of something that helps to make you feel safe. It might be something that you smell, something, that you touch. Like, um, let's just say you might have mm, this is like, if you want an anchor. So if you've got a therapist, you'd ask your therapist for an anchor. But if you have got something that makes you feel safe, or maybe an action, that can be an anchor. Okay, so, or perhaps a person can be an anchor. So who is somebody that makes you feel safe? What makes you feel safe? Where do you feel safe? When do you feel safe? Now, if one of those, you know resonates more than the other, perhaps you've got a who makes you feel safe, then I invite you to use your five senses, your visual, your sound, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste. Use your five senses and be with that person. Just imagine you are with that person and bring in all of those five senses. The same with the what. What makes you feel safe? Okay, where? Maybe that's curled up in your bed, of a morning just as you're waking up. Well, imagine yourself there in the warmth with that doona on top and your head on that soft pillow. Using the five senses, how does it smell? What are you hearing? What do you see? All right, so therapies and modalities to help you out with these addictions. Okay, so hypnotherapy, definitely, but make sure that you check in with a association, because you don't want to just be choosing anybody. All right, so hypnotherapy is freaking awesome. Resource therapy, NLP, anything to do with the body, a body therapy is what I feel works quickest and the best. Now, if you're wanting to do some reading, more reading on, how to help yourself, I can recommend books like In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, The Myth of Normal, The Body Keeps the Score. That is awesome. You can get that one at Kmart. Okay. Now, if you're wanting to check out some YouTube videos, I invite you to check out Robert Jean Smith. He's got an addiction protocol. Also, there's Gabor Mate. He's got a really good explanation of addiction. I will provide the links in the chat. Well, unfortunately, I can't be doing that right now. So, yeah, I'll see about that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your time, because I can tell you that time is precious. As I've said, the average Australian weekly lifespan is 4,435 weeks, and I have only 2,087.1 weeks left. So my time is valuable. What about yours? How do you want to spend yours? Now, if you're interested in booking a chat with me, please scan the QR code there, and that'll take you directly to my calendar. Because I'll tell you what, if you're ready to quit that addiction, to cease that addiction, I can help you. I can tell you it's quick, it's effective, and it's long lasting. All right. So once again, thank you so much for coming, because I am genuinely honored. Okay. And if you need to, please feel free to contact me. Okay. Bye for now.